Well, here we are a few days after the second city council meeting about the outdoor living ordinance. We saw some protest movement action, and there's been a community of protest building up. You've got the classic homeless protest activist tendency playing out. It's good, bad, and ugly. There's a lot of really good things happening in that space. Community building. It's our community collective challenge of homelessness. But what we really do is enter these spaces frustrated about the city government, frustrated that a government would want to make it illegal to sleep outside. How dare they? How could they do that? Right? Of course. At the same time, what's been happening in this space all along? For decades, we had been criminalizing homelessness in Santa Cruz. I personally protested, marched on City Hall, marched downtown, yelled at City Council dozens and dozens of times, to the point where they still have PTSD about me. They don't really want to work with our nonprofit. I do the Warming Center program, Footbridge Services Center, storage, laundry, showers, electrical charging, out at Felker Street, and serving this population of people who sleep outside. In 2017 and 2016, Martin versus Boise suspended all of the anti-homeless laws all over the country. If you can't shelter them, then you can't criminalize them. You can't write citations. And this new police chief, Andy Mills, agreed with that. We're not going to write citations. Right away, this encampment in the Benchlands popped up. We really got to see what happened because I was there every single day. In fact, you can look at this Facebook page, Homeless Outside in Santa Cruz, and look through the photographs of Benchlands, San Lorenzo Park back from that time, and lots of videos to see kind of what went down. When people come together in these ways, they're no longer criminalized. They can hang out and build encampments together without any guidance, without any community agreement, without any community involvement whatsoever. What ends up happening in this space? Well, unfortunately, the lowest common denominators, as I'll state, begin to determine the vibe, what's happening in this space. Sometimes the most aggressive, coercive behaviors dominate what's happening in this space. It lacks peacefulness, it lacks safety, substance use disorder, mental health, and then people trying to procure these addictive substances that they need. How do people with no money get heroin and methamphetamine? What happens when you have a community of a space where that's mostly happening? You get a lot of theft, you get a lot of coercion, a lot of aggressive behaviors in that space. I watch it play out. I'm not blanking that over the whole population of homelessness, but that's what we saw in the Benchlands in 2017. The city kind of gave it some structure, porta potties, some fencing. They've made little lines in the ground, dumpsters. That was pretty commendable. It's kind of, we've never seen it before in the history of Santa Cruz. This sort of allowance of people to be in this space. The police would walk through every day, the rangers, and you can see videos of that on this page. What were they doing there? They weren't busting people for using. They were, and sometimes they were just making sure that people were still alive in their tent. There were several overdose deaths in that park. Finally, they had to clean the slate. They cleaned it 3 different times. People had to pack up their stuff, and they scraped the ground, allow people to recamp. They did it 3 different times. Finally, they were over it, and then they moved some people into a managed camp. It became very expensive managed camp, 1220 River Street, and they did that twice. Finally, the Ross camp, our facility was right there, so we really got to watch it grow. We gave those people blue tents, tarps, blankets, socks. We were really there to help people with their basic storage needs. But again, no value set, no community agreements, no real interaction from the community at large, just a space where people who sleep outside can begin to set up tents. Again, it became a bit of a buyer's club. The entire neighborhood was fleeced for its backyard furniture. I know that because our property, our facility had a lot of things taken. And so we were kind of watching cars drive up, procure the addictive substances that they need, and use them in their car. And we had on Felker Street, we had a really difficult time there. And watching people we know and love facing their addictions in that space. And the city, again, brought porta potties, dumpsters, fencing, tambark, and several overdose deaths occurred. And And I'm just wondering, is this really, so we've been advocating for something called the transitional encampment sanctuary camp for many years. I've been up to Eugene and Seattle myself 4 different times over the years to develop something like that for Santa Cruz and build a community around this beneficial idea. It's not a managed camp that costs $1 million. It's something that vastly empowers the people within and builds community around it. But we haven't seen that yet in Santa Cruz. So it came time finally for them to scrape the earth, move everybody out of that place because the neighborhood was clamoring for it. Lots of things went down. Activists had a lawsuit that went on. There was an opportunity for transitional camp for a minute there, but the community of lefties, activists that we're a part of really just wanted to protest and kind of support that Ross camp. 1220 River Street, expensive managed camp, pops up again. And then finally, a year later, we have the Benchlands, and we have the Felker area camp. That's the camp that I was able to have a lot to do with because they're right in our backyard. We didn't want the Coral Street effect to happen where homeless program just ignores the people camping. How do we work with them to remove their trash? How do we begin to build a value set? Well, pardon me, we hear a lot that police are confiscating people's survival gear, but that's not really, that used to happen quite a bit, but it's not happening as much now. What we were really seeing is homeless on homeless crime, people stealing each other's stuff, people going into each other's tents. And how do we reduce that? How do you start encouraging people to not take things from each other? People who are very desperate behave desperately. It reduces personal dignity. It brings the whole community of people who sleep down. We were seeing people coming into our facility over and over daily. I'd left my tent for a few minutes and people stole my phone immediately. Bikes were being stolen. So what we began to develop with the Felker area camp is this idea: let's not steal things from each other. Let's make sure everybody has what they need. Let's not steal things from the neighborhood here. Let's realize that we're all neighbors. How do we take care of each other to make sure that we're happy and healthy? So even though people were engaged in their substance use disorder, procurement of items to get their daily dose to try to get well every day, they're also working on their communities, taking care of each other. And we saw that play out. So the Felker area camps are vastly different than the Benchlands and the Ross camp. Of course, they had to move that up because of river water rise. The Benchlands camp had grown again, exactly duplicating, but because of the pandemic, they had social distancing. But the same thing plays out, and along the highway too. They call it entrenchment. People just bringing stuff, building up. You have little castles built of pallets and big tarp kingdoms. I would be engaged in that too. If I was in that space, I would be kind of like feathering my own little fiefdom myself. I can see that. But where's the balance between having a sleeping ban where nobody can set up a tent and in a city park where people are just allowed to bring all kinds of material in, people are overdosing, and there's no value set at all? And what are we now, during this moment of activism, defending? What is our vision forward? That people should be able to sleep anywhere where they want to for as long as they want to, with no real value set? Yes, we're also saying that mutual aid groups should be able to take care of this space. But we don't really have a plan for that, and we haven't seen that in the last 3 or 4 years. So, what are we really about? So I believe there's a vast amount of space and it's important to know where we've been and some vision forward. And no matter what the lay of the land is legally, we know that these governments are going to build another anti-camping ban again, because that's what they do. But we intervened in this space to help them build it out. When we build this resistance movement, we say, hell no, we're not moving from San Lorenzo Park, not grokking why they would want to do that. Is it anti-homelessness, or is it really a downtown gem of a park and lots of people have a need to use that park? And how can we develop other things differently? That's why we built this agreement camp out in Harvey West, based on some collective agreement. The agreements are, we don't steal things from each other. We see the neighborhood as our neighbors, and we want to be good neighbors. We don't trespass. We don't steal things from the neighborhood. We use responsibly in our space, in our tent. We take better care of each other. We deal with our poop and our syringes and our garbage. So people who agreed to that, they've been over there for 4 months now without complaint. The city gave porta potties, dumpster, and there's a shower trailer over there now. So we want to build within the community, people sleep outside, this value set that around here, this is how we do it. We need an empowering community that's not just always only interested in resistance, that people enter the homeless space as activists and as lefties only to be, encourage our anti-authoritarian, anti-state, anti-capitalist, anti-police, value set, and using the space of homelessness to do it. I was at the protest yesterday for a while. Were there very many people who sleep outside, or were there lots of new activists that we've never seen before, people on the microphone who've only entered this space within the last 6 months, right? And a lot of old seasoned activists along the sides, but really no people who sleep outside. That's not where this community is coming from. So we want to build something of value, regardless of what the city is doing. And there's some real spaces in here for transitional camps, for managed camps, for nonprofits to enter the space. We know that there's going to be lawsuits because of this Tolo situation, that whatever they're, we've already seen how ridiculous it's been designed, that people would be able to camp, on the golf greens in De La Viega. That's just crazy, right? That people would be able to set tents up in Moore Creek and break it down. If you've ever been in Moore Creek, you know how difficult it is to get out there and then to break camp and then move out. So now that they're saying in the light industrial areas, in the very minimal spaces, on sidewalks, it's just a non-starter. We need to intervene here as a set of solutionaries. I hate that term. People with ideas. Put people with ideas together with other people with ideas. Nonprofits. Community groups, mutual aid groups that really are there to benefit the community at large, not just at the expense of the neighborhood business. And we see ourselves as set apart. We see the rhetoric as hateful of Santa Cruz. And historically, this is my reflection, that people who are in this protest set right now, they're often, and we've seen this over and over and over through the years, they're not invested in your community. Many of them are not from here, and they won't be here in a couple of years from now. So, but they run the roost right now, and so we really like the fervor. But what has happened in the last few decades? What's really authentically happening now, and why? And what responsibility had we in this space? And what responsibility do we have in building this future for the people that we say we care about? Or is it just, we're just using the space of homelessness for our own political fodder? Do we really care about the individuals who sleep outside? Have we been working with them? I know pretty much everybody who sleeps outside in Santa Cruz. I know them by name. Thousands of people we've served through our program, helping shelter them, at least giving them socks, blankets, hand warmers and stuff, and storage, laundry, showers, electrical charging, blah, blah, blah. We want to build transitional encampments. Yes, there's not going to be enough for the people who sleep outside now, but this is a filtration process. You need a space where people can have a safe space to begin to heal themselves. So many people come from already pre-existing middle class backgrounds. Many of those people have families elsewhere. They just need a space where they can finally explore what sobriety looks like, build community together, help empower each other, help each other, conform to those basic guidelines, that we don't steal from each other. What's the term? Just hold each other to account so that we can raise this floor of experience to something clean, more safe, and dignifying for everybody. We need a shelter array. We need the community to enter the space not as protesters, but working with. We have this thing called the Santa Cruz Coalition on Homelessness. It's designed as an idea incubator to say, here's our collective challenge. How do we meet these challenges, rather than always just saying, oh, the cops want to move on this camp, stop the sweeps. That's the only thing that keeps repeating. Stop the sweeps. Oh, here's our kitchen. Here's a mutual aid group that brings a wagon in and from time to time. That's not what homelessness services is. Let's look at holistically, and let's say we want to never turn anyone away. We want to meet all the basic needs and give people the chances that they need. We have 50, 60,000 people, residents of Santa Cruz, 250,000 people in the county, just so many wealthy people, intelligent techies and artists and lefties, we really have a collective challenge that we've been neglecting, and we only let the protest cycle over and over every 2 years, and it's just not effective. Sure, there's going to be lawsuits. Sure, but where are we going to be? We're going to be in the same place again 2 years from now, and we're not. Are people going to be criminalized? Likely, yes, but not if we design our programs right and build a community of empowerment that the city and the county can finally work with. We don't give them the energy. We don't build a community to support them in reflecting back to us a community that we want to see. We're a resistance movement, and they just respond in kind. We are a community of people who love Santa Cruz. We love each other. We love being here. We love the people who suffer sleeping outside. They're our people. It's not a grounds for protest. It's a grounds for healing and improvement, community building, and program building. We need a vision forward. We need to build a collective will towards action. So we're going to have a meeting, Coalition on Homelessness, Santa Cruz Coalition on Homeless meeting, to talk about some of these ideas a week from Saturday. I don't know what date that is. And we'll talk about it soon.